Hello and welcome again to my Rice Lake, Dallas, and Menomonie Railroad. This is a layout in HO scale that I've been working on for a little over a year now. And as I showed in the last two videos in this series, I designed this layout so it can be operated on, but due to the virus pandemic right now, I'm not able to have op sessions, nor am I able to attend op sessions, so I thought I'd make some videos on ops for shut-ins. What we'll see today on the layout is my passenger train operation, or how I plan it. Some people have passenger trains that run from point A to B on a certain schedule. Now, because my layout isn't that big, I have maybe a 50-foot mainline run and depots at 4 different spots. My operators in the past have really liked to have some switching to do rather than just stop at depots for a set period of time. So what I've done, if you've seen my previous two clinics on this, two videos, I've used switch lists, except in this case I've condensed them down to a little 3 inch by 4 inch piece of paper. Mainly because my freight trains run on a product called Ship It software that prints out 8.5 by 11 switch lists. And because freight trains vary from op session to op session, the amount of cars varies from one location to another as far as pickups and setouts. I need those bigger sheets. Whereas on my layout, the schedule for the passenger trains is fairly well set. And so I've added a little bit of switching in that consist, or that schedule. And as I said, it's down to this size here. The trains I'm going to be running today are number 6 passenger train, which runs from Minneapolis to Duluth, which is the other end of the layout. And en route, it's going to be meeting one train coming from one of my branch lines, and they'll meet at Rice Lake. To get back to my clipboard here, I wrote down a lot of things that I wanted to cover today so I didn't forget about it. My layout and a normal op session that I would have here, I run 6 passenger trains. And they basically, most of them run from one end to the other. However, I do have a passenger train coming in from one of the branch lines. And I do also have a mixed train, which I could consider a passenger train, but it's also a freight train. As I said, the passenger trains run a repeating schedule. That's what's allowed me to condense this. What's new since the last time you may have seen one of my videos? Well, I've added a few things to the layout, including this passenger train shed here. And I'll do a little insert video. I also have a engine house that's located in Minneapolis, which is over here. This passenger train shed here is based on one that used to be in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and it's scratch built. The engine house is a kit bashed Walthers. Looking at train number 6, which runs from Minneapolis to Duluth with stops at Barron, Cameron Junction, and Rice Lake. And as I said before, it'll be meeting train number 18 at Rice Lake. But this train needs a freshly iced reefer. Here's my ice house here. There's a reefer, express reefer that's been freshly iced. We're going to take the yard switcher here and grab that reefer and bring it over to the passenger shed where train number 6's engine will latch onto it and it will become part of the consist. On my layout we run with an 8-to-1 fast clock. I use one that's in the tools section from JMRI. That allows us to do a 24-hour day in 3 hours. To make sure. One of the other things I've been working on, you may see here, is signaling for the layout. I don't have them operational yet, but hopefully by Labor Day, which is in a couple of weeks, I will have the signaling system fully operational on it. And I'll probably do another video at that time which will allow you to see how it works. Alright, we're going to take train number 6's power, engine 2227, and move it out of the way so that the yard switcher can connect up the express reefer. This engine is a Proto 2000, probably about 10 years old. Okay, that's out of the way. Flip a couple of turnouts, and now I'm going to take my yard switcher and connect up the express reefer. In a previous video, I said how much I liked Rick's uncouplers, magnetic uncouplers, and they work great for my freight trains. Unfortunately, when I do passenger operations, the passenger cars have diaphragms on them, and the express reefers, most of them, have little lips. It's kind of a shelf or a walkway just above the coupler, which makes it difficult to get this down in between the cars. So I will use a pick the rest of the way on this. Now it's time to get the switcher out of the way. And the passenger train power will then reconnect the combine that's still in the shed over here in Minneapolis. Turn out, back in. I also mentioned in my last video, or one of my last videos, that I adjust the speed of my locomotives so none of them runs more than half speed. This also will help in the illusion that the layout is a lot bigger than it actually is because it takes trains longer to get from point to point. Okay, all what you saw there has got to be completed before the start time for train number 6, which is 4 a.m. So when the order comes up for this passenger train, the yardmaster here has got to be on the ball and take a look at the fast clock, which will be right across from me on the wall, and make sure he's got enough time to do all what we just did there, or what I just did there, before 4 o'clock so that the road crew can pull out on time. Now I'm going to flip a turnout over here because train number 6 has got to make a stop here at the Barron Depot. Again, I'm running it at half power now, or half speed, and it's pulling out slow. As I look at the schedule, it says I arrive at Barron at 4:15, and I have a half an hour to set that reefer out at the house track. This background building is another one that I've just recently added. It's made with woodland scenic design preservation panels. And it covers an opening that goes to my branch line, which is on the other side of the backdrop behind me. Okay, we've got to drop this reefer off. And I said before, I can't use that magnetic uncoupler because of the tight clearances in between. So I will use this pick and just move the trip pins on the bottom to uncouple it. You may be wondering what this short train is in front of me here. My layout is based on a line that used to run in northwestern Wisconsin called the Rice Lake, Dallas, and Menomonie. And part of the operation on that line went to a branch line in Ridgeland, Wisconsin, out of Barron. This is Barron, and what I'm simulating here is the branch line train which pulled on the back side of the depot, and the main line for the Sioux line ran on the front side of the depot. Normally in my passenger train schedule, this train would not be sitting here at the time, but I wanted to show you what a typical consist was for that branch line up until World War II. It used short wheelbase steam locomotives, and then due to a washout on the line during World War II, they were able to rebuild the line with heavier rail, and then they started using consolidations and later Jeep 9s on the line. But I have a bunch of small wheelbase steam locomotives I like to use. Here's one that I've modified for a Sioux line engine. It's actually a Bachmann 260. The combine here is typical of the combines used on the line. Well, we better get back to work or the passengers aren't going to get to the next stop on time. This reefer will be picked up later if I was running in my full-scale op sessions. Occasionally these couplers don't line up. This is helpful. Okay, it's ready to go. I want to double check my schedule here to make sure that I know where I have to be. Next stop is going to be Cameron Junction. And I have a 15-minute stop there, so let's head out. I'm not using the bell or whistles at this time because I'm narrating this and that's just going to be extra noise. Now the train has pulled into Cameron Junction. Cameron Junction represents the original Cameron Junction in northwest Wisconsin, where the Chicago Northwestern and the Sioux line met. And they had a junction depot here. And this one's in Chicago Northwestern colors that are appropriate for circa 1950. This two-sided junction depot is on an angle much greater than the 89 degrees it was in the original. But I scratch built this based on plans and I've compressed it a little bit to fit on my layout. And occasionally freight trains will set out cars here for interchange with the Chicago Northwestern, or originally the Omaha. Well, it's time to get on to Rice Lake. Train 18 has already arrived and is sitting on the back side of the depot here. Train 18 comes from my other branch line that goes off behind the backdrop on this side. And it brings passenger traffic down to Rice Lake so that passengers can switch trains in either direction. So it's waiting for me to complete my run and leave the depot area and on to Duluth, and then it's got work to do. The depot here is a Sioux Line second class depot, and I scratch built this a few years back based on plans that I got from the Sioux Line Historical and Technical Society. Looks like a 15-minute stop is done, and our mainline passenger train will be leaving. All right, now 351 can do what it needs to do. I will look at my switch list for 351 and it says meet train 6, which I already did because train 6 is passed. It says after train 6 departs, pick up express reefer on LCL siding. Here's LCL, here's the siding, here's the express reefer. Eventually, I plan to put a house track in right here, but I'm still going through the stage where I'm checking out what works, what doesn't. I wish I had other people here to help me find these odd things about the layout, let's say design flaws or other flaws that I can fix. And this is one of the main reasons I have op sessions and have had op sessions in the past on a previous layout. I was able to find areas that needed to be fixed and how I could make my layout better. So let's disconnect that. As a matter of fact, before I even do that, at this time I would put my fast clock on hold so I could explain something. Let's run this forward a little bit here. This is an open vestibule combine similar to the ones that the Sioux Line used on its low traffic lines. It's based on an article that appeared in 1984 in Model Railroader magazine by my friend Ken Soros. And a few years back I dug out the article and I thought, geez, I could use one of these for my branch line train. And it is actually kit bashed out of Athearn passenger car shells. So I'll back that up to the depot so that the passengers can board that car while the engine is doing its switching chores. And you can notice the difference in the sound of these engines. The one that came through was an EMD engine. And this one is an Alco. And Alcos had that different engine sound. When I worked for the Sioux Line, I worked on several Alco S. Be nice to make it go in the right direction. I worked on many Sioux Line RS1s, and so I had that sound in my head, and I said, when I get an RS1, I am going to make sure I get a sound decoder in it so I can hear that sound again. The engine itself was custom painted for me by Ray Grosser. I put the sound unit in it. Make sure all these turnouts are lined up. I'm going to come back and get this. But now you can see what side of the engine this reefer is going to be on. One of those little glitches in the track work yet that has to be worked out. This is a facing point turnout, so I'm going to have to do a little run around here to get it on the right side of this engine. Alright, you've got it. My mainline turnouts are powered by servo motors, and they'll be connected through sensors for my signaling system. Anything off the main line is manually operated for turnouts. I'm going to drop the reefer on the passing siding here and then run around it. Here's something that I brought up once before. Alco's, the front is the long hood portion and the back is the short hood. On an EMD engine, the short hood is the front. I should know that by now. So I was saying before, I use servo motors to control my turnouts. And to control my turnout servo motors, I use a product called an Octopus 3 made by Cam Valley. Make that a little harder. Now I will back up the branch line track and connect onto the combine. Hope everybody was on board because we bumped that a little bit. Okay, the engineer and the conductor have got any orders that they may have. In my previous, one of my previous videos, I mentioned that I use Form 19s. Doesn't look like any at this time, so the train will depart. Next stop, Cameron Junction. Train number 18 will make a short stop here. The timetable calls for a 15-minute stop. But being that this is my layout, I'll make that 15 minutes go fast. It's time to move on. Next stop, Barron. Rather than setting out or picking up here, train number 18 will make a station stop and then go directly into Minneapolis. And again, because it's my layout, I'm going to make that 15 minutes go by really fast. Train 18 will pull all the way into the shed. And its run is completed for the day. Later on, the switch engine will come in and rearrange that consist, and it'll head out as its complement number 17. Well, I hope I've given you a little insight on how I run passenger trains on my layout, or will as soon as this pandemic is over and I can have op sessions again. Try passenger train operations on your layout. Do a little switching. It'll give you a little bit more to do when you run passenger trains. And with freight trains running on this layout, things can get complex at the time, but as I said on a previous menu, we'll run anywhere from 16 to 18 trains, that's freight and passenger trains, on the Rice Lake, Dallas, and Menomonie. So look for my videos in the future, and if you're looking around on YouTube, check my YouTube page for all kinds of railroad videos. We'll see you next time.